Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Yoonhee Kim. I'm technology editor at the Wall Street Journal. Cybersecurity is a very hot topic that all of us are covering right now. And so I wanted to introduce our expert panelists today for this session. Please welcome Renaud Deraison, CTO and co-founder of Tenable. We also have Nathalie Kosciusko. She's Vice President of Cloud and Cybersecurity for North America at Capgemini. Joining them on stage will be John Rogers, Chief Information Security Officer at BNP Paribas. We also have Erwan Keraudy, CEO and co-founder of CybelAngel. And Erwan actually was here last year and won the startup competition. So thank you very much for joining us today. I mentioned earlier that cybersecurity is such a hot topic. And I think everyone in the room probably feels the same way about potential threats. So I wanted to start off this discussion to look at what are the biggest threat for all of us in the room today. If you could maybe describe what worries you the most. And why don't we start with
To me, the biggest threat right now is the rise of complexity in the digital infrastructure. We're at a very interesting time right now where every company is undergoing what's called digital transformation. They connect all the systems all together. They use new technologies such as public cloud. You've got the rise of what's called IoT, the Internet of Things, which is a very nascent technology, and you've got a workforce which is more mobile than ever. And so all of that together means an expanded attack surface, and it's very difficult for corporations to keep track of what they have and maintain it. And to me, that complexity leads to being more exposed to attacks.
Nathalie, you spent some time in the government, now you're in the private sector. What are you seeing out there in the market today that poses the biggest risks for people in the room, in your opinion?
So, from my experience, I would say the major threat today is probably underinvestment and late investment. We should consider that one should invest as much in security as in innovation, and at the same time, security by design. And a lot of companies invest first in innovation, design a business model, and then think cybersecurity, and it's too late.
Just to give all of you guys some perspective, global spending on cybersecurity is projected to reach about $135 billion in 2022 from just about $4.3 billion in 2016. So that amount is huge. John, I'll go go to you to talk about where you see the biggest threat today.
Sure. So, I mean, obviously, as a banker, I think we're particularly concerned about risks to the financial sector with regards to payment systems. Right, we've seen a lot of cyber attacks that have led to fraud in the payment space, but also, a lot of banks like BNP have a significant amount of material non-public information that needs to be protected as well. And to Renaud's point about the complexity that's of the IT systems, of the ecosystem of vendors and the IoT environments and everything, that complexity actually makes it really difficult. So I think having a good understanding of where your key business processes are and your key the key information is something that's it's a real challenge for a large global company.
We talked a little bit backstage about data leak on the internet. Talk to us a little bit about your business, because your business is catered to that specific segment.
Exactly.
Right?
Wow. Hello. Wow, impressive. Yeah, in fact, CybelAngel is trying to make internet a little bit more secure, and so it's not an easy task, to be honest. But how we solve the problem is how Renaud was saying. a huge amount of connected storage around the world with crappy devices are storing a huge amount of information. And so we are scanning all this connected storage of the world and finding billions of new documents completely unsecured. I can give you the URL, you put that in your browser, and no login, no password. You can see the $1 billion acquisition project appearing on your computer. So the business model of CybelAngel is to find these leaks, bring back this information to the owners, very critical information in order for the owner to switch off the leaks. So coming back to your question about what is a big threat right now, it could be surprising, but one of the big threats everybody is victim right now is the sharing philosophy. Everybody is sharing a lot of things, documents, email, password. Just consider that already have been compromised already. But it's not an issue, it's just a change of mindset. Now we have considered that we have to live with this threat.
So how do we prevent ourselves from these potential attacks? Let's talk about prevention measures and better detection. A lot of technology companies are talking about artificial intelligence and the role of AI in detecting potential cyber attacks. Is AI the solution? Are there any other solutions to detection? And your company builds software to potentially better detect attacks. So talk to us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so our take is that, first of all, security is an industry which has always been looking for a silver bullet, right? A product which would solve security. It was the firewalls and the IPS, etc. And it always failed. The truth is, the first thing you need to do before adding new technology is to do the basic blocking and tackling, identifying your devices, making sure they're up to date, making sure that they're not missing any security patches. In the specific case of AI, there's a lot of hype about AI today. I don't know if any of the startups will mention it, I guess. And you see a rise of using AI to defend the network better. The way we see it, AI is software you add on top of your network. Software has bugs, and that's how you have security issues. So to us, just adding another layer of complexity might actually increase to some extent the exposure of many companies. That being said, you can use AI to augment the efficiency of an analyst and provide them with all the information they need to treat an incident or something like that. So it's kind of a post-attack kind of use of AI.
John, what about the financial sector and better detecting attacks coming in to all these big banks like your bank?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I think we're getting better about that. I think that maybe just to level set with the audience, I mean, I personally view artificial intelligence as something that doesn't exist yet. I think when people say artificial intelligence, what they really mean is machine learning. And I think that, in 20, 30 years' time, we may end up in a sort of science fiction environment where the artificial intelligence for one, nation state is attacking and defending against another. But at the moment, that doesn't exist. So what we're using today is analytics to help us, solve the problems of finding the needle in the haystack. We have lots of systems that are reporting their logs into one collection area. And then, you have analysts that are meant to look for the needle in the haystack that could, sort of present that breach that you should, try and do something about. But in order to do that with all of that amount of data, you really need machine learning. You really need analytics, and that's why, I think the focus in the industry has changed a little bit over the past few years to tilt in that direction, recognizing that, we just cannot hire that many analysts. We must do a better job of coordinating it with technology.
Your firm uses AI.
Exactly.
I set him up.
I completely agree with John. I cannot agree more. In fact, when we found, as I told you, we are finding millions and billions of documents every day. And among these billions of documents, of course, you cannot imagine thousands of people digging in this information. No, you cannot do that. So we need AI on top of that, AI or machine learning or neural networks or so on. To dig automatically in this information and to give a score to any of this information to find if this information is confidential, critical, or not. And AI helps a lot.
Nathalie, I wanted to talk about the role of the government and how it could work with the private sector to potentially prevent nation-state attacks or other types of cybersecurity attacks. How do you think in terms of regulation, what needs to be done, in your opinion, since you've spent some time in the government, to prevent attacks like the big ones that we've seen, Equifax, to name one, or the Facebook Analytica data breach?
So I don't know if this is a role of somebody who joined the private sector to call for regulation, but I really believe we need some regulation there in at least 3 fields. First, privacy. Obviously, Europe has taken a certain leadership with the GDPR, and we would like those regulations maybe to be interlocked. That would be easier. So that would be less business for us. But so regulation for data privacy. I think we also need rule of wars. Like there's the Geneva Convention for traditional wars. There are amendments for non-traditional weapons, and there's nothing today for cybersecurity. Are you allowed, for example, to hack back? What are the rules? Do you allow a company like Erwan's to delete the files he sees that should not be there or not? So this would be a second field of regulation. And the third one would certainly be liabilities. You're showing a slide recalling what NotPetya was about. There was another about WannaCry. Those malware were built after the discovery of a flaw in a software, and the discovery was made by the NSA. Well, who was responsible for the attack? Obviously, the hackers were, but has the NSA sort of responsibility for discovering the flaw and not letting know? Has the software seller a responsibility? We can't really move quickly forward if we don't set up a clear understanding of who's responsible for what. And by the way, this would also help develop insurance products. It's very difficult to insure something, a risk, when you don't know who would be responsible for what.
What about disclosure rules? In many countries, in the US, the disclosures are very transparent. You have to disclose a breach 24 hours, right 24 hours after a breach has happened. But in many parts of Asia, companies are not, they don't have to disclose their breach. And so a lot of these attacks go unnoticed. Do you have any thoughts about regulation for disclosure rules for cybersecurity companies?
The easy thing would be to have an international convention, but well, the easy thing. This is an easy thought, but it's not an easy thing to do. And certainly a way to move forward is having corporate association setting rules, implementing them, and pressuring other stakeholders to take on these rules.
I want to move on to talk about best practices for preventing oneself from future attacks, because you all are experts in this space. So if you could share one tip for those in the room to how to secure your data or prevent your firm from being an attack target, what would you advice would you give?
For an end user, I would say patch your systems, right? When you have that annoying pop-up telling you to update Acrobat, it's time to do it. And use strong authentication, like two-factor authentication for all your web services. That means Google, Amazon, Facebook, all of these services, all these websites offer really what's called two-factor authentication, meaning a password plus a text on your phone. And just doing that kind of basic cyber hygiene, if you will, really dramatically decrease the exposure. For people in the audience, really the biggest risk is to have your account taken over for whatever service, and using this will actually reduce it.
John, I'll go to you since you work at a bank.
Well, and I mean, I'm conscious of the point that Renaud made earlier, that it's really not a silver bullet to solve this problem, so I don't want to give the audience the perspective that it's possible to do this. Aside from training and awareness, data leakages oftentimes are caused by insiders that are doing something accidentally. The training can resolve. I think we need to be conscious of the root cause of why systems are vulnerable, and I think software development practices that involve secure code development really have sort of the root cause of a lot of the downstream problems that we see in industry today. In banking systems that were built 20 years ago that were developed without security in mind need to be re-architected, and that costs money. So there's this notion of tech debt that CISOs talk about a lot in industry, and how we go around fixing that. So I think paying attention to software development and training developers how to develop secure code would be my recommendation there.
I have two recommendations. The first one is, please, when you are a CEO of a big company and you are working on your next billion-dollar acquisition and you are sharing this documentation with your lawyer, for example, in Brazil or somewhere, please consider this information is compromised already. This information is out of control. You cannot control the protection of this document. It's already outside the perimeter you control. You cannot do anything except at one stage to be informed that this information has been leaked. My second recommendation would be work with us because we will find this information back.
It seems to be that there's a lack of talent, or it's really, really difficult to find talent in the cybersecurity space. How do you recruit or find the right people to better detect and help us with prevention measures? I mean, how do you find the right talent for your firm?
Sure. So, first of all, cyber has 0% unemployment today. It's nobody has cyber talent.
0%. Did you all hear that? 0% unemployment rate in the cybersecurity industry.
So that makes it very difficult to find the right talent. So what we do think on our end, because we're a software leader, first of all, we it's divide and conquer. So we're well aware that it's very difficult to hire somebody with knowledge of the full spectrum. So we're going to divide the software into small pieces and find the right engineer to do big data and other doing cloud and whatnot. But then you have to compete on salary, on perks, and we allow a lot of employees to work from home. We have offices in multiple locations, and we offer competitive salaries and packages.
Nathalie.
So we hire. So anybody interested, please come and see me afterwards. And as Renaud said, it's very difficult. It's very tough today. It's
what are the skills needed to be an expert in this industry, in your opinion?
Well, we have a number of different specialties. In fact, cybersecurity is a huge scope. So today, for example, identity and access management is very hot. Crypto is hot. Managed security services, which is slightly different business, and especially threat intelligence is hot. It's very difficult to hire people in these with these skills. Personally, what I try to promote working in a service company is the big variety of the jobs you can do there, and cyber people really like that. The not being in a steady environment and having the opportunity to develop various experiences, see various sectors, is something we can use to try to differentiate from those guys. But that's obviously very difficult.
And John, what about financial institutions like BNP Paribas?
Well, I don't like to give away my strategy because people will steal my strategy. But when I meet with the other bank CISOs, oftentimes our strategy is to take people from each other's organizations, which is a zero-sum game. Poaching, oh, that's true. But no, I mean, what we've done is we've cultivated relationships with a number of universities. Montreal, we have Polytechnic University and a number of universities that have cybersecurity programs. That's more geared towards, entry-level positions, internships that we can then develop the talent and train them because, again, there's a lack of talent in the market. But after you've got them, it's also, keeping them, right? So a lot of people that work in this industry because of the amount of money that's being thrown at them from other companies, will stay in a position for 2 or 3 years and then move to a different firm for an additional 20% salary increase. We really need to focus on the value and the mission behind why it's important what we're doing. And I think a lot of companies sort of tend to focus on, well, you're an identity and access management engineer, your job is to do this, and you sort of click these buttons. Whereas, in reality, you're at the front lines of defense in protecting the organization against, the cyber attackers of nation states. I mean, that's really profoundly, valuable to the industry. And I think, sharing that message and making sure that that's clear across the organization, not just in the cyber team, but also helps the motivation and keeps people happy, because people want that sort of mission that they know that what they're doing is providing value.
And Erwan, your firm is expanding in the US, so you're probably looking for...
Yeah, so John, I was 13 years a trader, so I can clearly understand this very interesting industry. Startup is even better, so please come to see me. I'm kidding. Yeah, in startup we are growing very fastly. For example, I have to build a team of 40 people during the last 18 months in the US, sorry. To find talents like that is not really easy, so I'm going into some specific industries where they are firing a lot of people in cyber in the moment, the FBI. So the great talent from here, but from other schools, of course. And in startup, we value a lot diversity. So cybersecurity is not only male or female industry, it's diverse, and also it's not only European and American, so we value diversity a lot. Curiosity also a lot, because in startup we have to build everything together, and fun.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this discussion. We're running out of time, so thank you for joining our panel discussion today.
Thank you.